This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel this fine Sunday morning, following what was an absolute unreal undressing of the Calgary Flames last night, 8-3 in every facet of the game. The Oilers went out there and won last night. So that said, an unreal result, but we get something out of this we didn't quite expect. And what we get out of it is a team that is absolutely glued together, and there ain't no one gluing them anytime soon by the looks of it. Think about this for the Edmonton Oilers since the All-Star break. 2-0-1. So we have 5 of 6 points. And what I said, I missed it in the game review last night, but not to toot my own horn, I said this week had to be 5 of 6 points. Obviously, preferably, the 1 point was going to come against the St. Louis Blues so as we could take both division games. That said, didn't happen, but still, we ended up taking one of 2 Calgary games and, of course, the St. Louis game to get that 5 of 6 points this week, and that is absolutely perfect. But what I'm talking about is this team being glued together and ain't coming unglued anytime soon. You imagine how much team bonding, it's probably the biggest topic this morning out of any of the journalists, is how much team bonding went into last night's hockey game. My goodness, guys. The Edmonton Oilers stood up, stand up, beat up, undressed, whatever you want to say, the Calgary Flames, and showed who they really are. This is one thing maybe we haven't gotten to see yet this year out of our Edmonton Oilers. We haven't got to see who they are. And now they're announcing on the big stage, right, back-to-back Battle of Alberta's, the big nationally televised late game on Hockey Night in Canada. We are a team not to be pushed around. We are a team. That is key. That is number one. We are a team. And the reason I'm stressing on that today is obviously I've been there. We've all been there this season saying this team needs this. This team needs this. This team needs that. This team needs this guy, that guy, the other guy. And the simple fact is, for the time being right now, after coming off the emotional high against Calgary Wednesday, then on Friday against St. Louis, and last night against the Calgary Flames once again, this team doesn't need anything. Yes, Tyler Benson's going to probably draw in against Arizona. Yes, you know what, there's some injuries and stuff. This team needs this team still needs that. But at the end of the day, this team just needs itself. At this moment, this locker room is so highly motivated to go out and do something, deliver something that fans have been dying for since we got just a taste. Seriously, second round of the playoffs, not so long ago. It's just a taste of what this Oilers team can bring in the playoffs, and it's a completely different Oilers team. But you look at this Oilers team we have now. If they're bringing this kind of effort, compete level, and just flat out work effort every single night in the playoffs, good things are going to happen. Last night was an unreal game out of our Oilers, that's for sure. And just let me get the scoreboard for you here, because give me a second and I'll get you a stat line for last night's hockey game. The 8-3 win, yeah, you know what, that's an offensive night. You can say Calgary wasn't there, whatever you want to say. But I'll give you the hit totals, right? The hit totals were 15-11 for the Calgary Flames. So not this big playoff battle that we might all talk about in terms of physicality, but when the physicality went the extra mile, so did the Oilers, right? Every single fight. Call the Bear Kachuk one probably a draw because they quit before a winner could be decided because Smith and Talbot were going. But Jujhar Khaira absolutely takes on Mammoth. Buddy Robinson gets the takedown, gets the crowd in attendance that's wearing an Oilers jersey a little bit fired up. Then you have Smith absolutely pounding away on Talbot, right? There you go. The Oilers chasing David Riddick from the game, ends up, he comes back and he finishes the game, but that's the bizarre nature that was last night, using an emergency goalie for both teams, one guy. But just unreal, guys. At the end of the day, this victory against the Calgary Flames, this 8-3 victory, goes far beyond anything else we could ever ask for out of the Edmonton Oilers in the Battle of Alberta, right? You talk about it. I've seen people saying this is the best Battle of Alberta since the 80s, the 90s, right? The early 90s, the early 90s is what we'd be talking about right there. And that's completely fair. Because honestly, I was a little bit how would I say it? Flabbergasted? Yeah, that'd be a big fancy word to use. At what I saw last night, flabbergasted by what I saw last night. Really didn't know how to comprehend it last night. And quite honestly, I think over the course of my hockey career, besides maybe one or two Junior B games that have gotten really crazy before, that was, bar none, the craziest game I have ever watched, and bar none, the craziest game I've ever watched in the NHL. And you think, okay, let's get back to it, me aside, get back to the discussion on the players here, is simply the NHL players in this game, right? The Oilers that get the big victory, right? Key number one to this being a good game was getting the 2 points. You imagine if all that happened when it was 6-3 for the Calgary Flames, would have been a lot for naught at the end of the day, right? But we get the 8-3 victory, and the boys, everybody showed up. Everybody came to bat in that hockey game, right? Nobody quit moving their feet. Everybody was there giving 100% effort at all times of the game. Yeah, you can talk about some bad turnovers, this, that, or the other thing, but this Oilers team came to play last night, played a complete game, and stood up every time they were challenged. And that's at the end of the day why Oilers fans were so upset with Matthew Tkachuk, is he did not stand up when he was challenged by Zach Kassian back on January 11th. And honestly, you think about if Zach Kassian and Matthew Tkachuk would have gone January 11th, we probably would have never been treated to half as good a games as we were on Wednesday and last night against the Calgary Flames. Seriously, straight up. It probably would have solved itself then. It would have been game over, all good, right, all fine. But you talk about, right, the Gagne-Giordano battle, Bear versus Tkachuk last night. Buddy Robinson versus Jujhar Khaira, Mike Smith versus Cam Talbot, Patrick Russell getting in there in Greece, and Alex Chiasson. I mean, the guy's been fired up the past like 2 weeks, but he gets ejected. Like, absolutely insane to sit here and think how much passion came out of the Oilers game last night and absolutely bled onto the ice, and that was beyond the best part of it. Just watching the Oilers play the most fired up, most, I don't know what I'm looking for here. I'm trying to deliver some kind of good speech here, but most passionate performance. We'll just use passionate. We have seen since the 17 playoffs, but probably realistically since 1990 or 1989, 1988, realistically between these two teams. And I think what Jack Michaels or Bob Stauffer mentioned was actually all the way back to when the Oilers left Gretzky behind in that whole brouhaha with the LA Kings that resulted in what, like 302 minutes of penalties or something. But just unreal to think about what this, it might have been Bob Stauffer, by the way. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but you think just absolute calamity at the Saddle Dome, and the Oilers come out on the right side of it. The Oilers come out a better team for it. The Oilers come out absolutely ready to crush this stretch run. And think about this, guys, if we don't need to go out there and get a piece now because the Oilers are absolutely ready to live and die for each other on the ice, well, that does us a lot of good when it comes to negotiating. We aren't hurting, right? Obviously, that's the key. At the end of the day, the Oilers don't need to make a trade at the moment because this team is so glued together, it ain't coming unglued anytime soon. But as soon as it does, that's when you pull the trigger. But does it at all? That's the question. Does this team at all come unglued after what happened last night against the Calgary Flames? It's going to be interesting to see because, yeah, sure, you know what? Now we go into this kind of weird lull for the Edmonton Oilers. If I can bring you up, the schedule is, it gets kind of weird, right? You go to Arizona, that's going to be another passionate, emotional game because division points are on the line, and that's the interesting part, is division points, division games, no matter what, the Oilers have emotion in them now. Then you've got San Jose, should be another emotional one because San Jose would like to do some favors for some other teams, I think. And then you've got Nashville on a 5 p.m. start on Hockey Day in Canada. And this is where it kind of gets mundane, right? Nashville, Chicago, Tampa Bay, Florida, Carolina, Boston. And it doesn't get going again until probably Minnesota on the 21st. So, got a tough stretch coming up after this Arizona game. But for right now, this Edmonton Oilers team fully engaged, fully ready to fight. And ladies and gentlemen, we are a whole, what, 34 points, 17 wins straight up, back of that 96 marker everyone's talking about. I talk about the 94 marker, which would be only 32, 16 wins away in the next 30 games for the Edmonton Oilers to make the playoffs. Guys, I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've stuck through the whole thing, now I'm going to throw you that. Consider hitting that subscribe button. Over 27 people have done it since 5 p.m. Saturday afternoon. Guys, I am up on out of here.